Right friends, welcome back to Union Budget 2016-17. We are presenting this in two parts, and the budget can be described as with the focus on farmers and rural development. It is a paradigm shift with the focus on farmers and rural development. And what are the salient points? We are listing salient points here, and subsequently we will discuss one by one in detail in two parts. Push for social sector, rural sector, agriculture sector and infrastructure sector, and intent is very clear: go to the rural areas, have some development, but at the same time please don't forget there is some jugglery with regard to numbers also. We are going to discuss these things in detail. Fiscal deficit retained at 3.5%, and finally government voted for fiscal consolidation instead of fiscal expansion. We are going to discuss about it. Krishi Kalyan cess at 0.5% on all taxable services. This Krishi Kalyan cess will be used for farmers' welfare. Then dedicated long-term irrigation fund with a corpus of rupees 20,000 crores. And another important aspect is universal village electrification by 1st May 2018. As the Prime Minister announced during the last year's Independence Day address, all the villages will be electrified within a period of 1000 days from that date. Accordingly, by 1st May 2018, entire electrification of all the villages in the country will be taken up. Then new health insurance scheme, very important step for cover up to rupees 1 lakh for below poverty line families. And another important aspect is all the villages will be connected by all weather roads by 2019, and during this year 19,000 crores allotted for Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Then all families below poverty line to be provided with LPG connection in 3 years. Most important step, because at present in rural areas several women are using firewood for cooking purpose, and which is highly cancerous, and this step is the step in the right direction, and government plans to give 5 crore LPG connections during the next 3 years. Several incentives to promote affordable housing, because having a house is the dream for many citizens in this country. Then legislative framework for direct benefit transfer so as to universalize it with Aadhaar linkage. Then after giving compliance window for black money abroad, now government came up with compliance window for domestic black money through income disclosure scheme. Then direct tax dispute resolution scheme so as to create confidence in foreign investors. Not many changes in corporate tax rates. Some measures for small companies as well as startups, and finally roadmap to review the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act of 2003. So these are the important salient points, and the intent is very clear. It is focused on agriculture, farmers, rural development, below poverty line families, and more focus on direct benefit transfer so as to target the subsidies. And there are several areas of concern we are going to discuss at the end in part 2. Right friends, if you look at the GDP growth, it is estimated to be 7.6% during the current year, and we have already deliberated about these macroeconomic indicators in economic survey. Then if you look at agriculture GDP growth, last year, that is during 2014-15, it was minus 0.2%. This year it is expected to be 1.1%, and ideally agriculture growth should be around 4%. And if you look at the manufacturing GDP growth, it is 9.5% during this current year, and unfortunately certain other indices like IIP is not supporting manufacturing growth. The balance sheets of corporate sector, then credit offtake, poor credit offtake from the banking industry, and IIP numbers, these are not supporting manufacturing GDP growth, but as per the budget documents, manufacturing GDP growth is stated as 9.5%. consumer price index is around 4.8%. Economic survey says 4.9%. Anyhow, it is below 5% during the current year, which is within the let down target of Reserve Bank of India. And if you look at the fiscal deficit, government retained 3.5% for 2016-17, and this year it is expected to be 3.9% as projected in the budget speech of 2015-16. So, this fiscal deficit target of 3.9% will be ensured for the year 2015-16, and for next year it is kept as 3.5%. And important aspect where government able to meet this fiscal deficit target is because of a fall in oil prices and government's increase in excise duty on petroleum products. Government increased excise duty several times in recent months, and government is getting huge revenue as excise duty on petroleum products because global petroleum products reduced drastically, but government is not passing on that benefit entirely to the customers. Instead, it is imposing excise duty and garnering more revenue. That is one of the reasons, one of the prime reasons where government is able to maintain this fiscal deficit target of 3.9% this year and 3.5% target for the next year, right? So, if you look at how the rupee comes and how the rupee goes, as usual, borrowings and liabilities, that is the market borrowings constitutes 21%. So, government gets 21% of money through borrowings, and the next highest is corporate tax at 19%. If someone asks which is the highest tax revenue for the government, that is corporate tax. And how the rupee goes? The rupee goes, 23% goes to states' share of taxes. In the 14th Finance Commission, the devolution of a state's share increased from 32% to 42%, and overall if you look at 23% will go as a state's share, because certain things are not to be shared with the states, especially cess, surcharge. These are not required to be shared with the states. That's why government is resorting to more cess as well as more surcharge, and here 23% overall will go to states as its share, and after that the highest is interest payments at 19%. And economists lay more stress on fiscal deficit because of two reasons. If the fiscal deficit is more, then it will lead to inflationary expectations, and the second thing is most of government's income will go for interest payments and very less will be left for capital expenditure or creation of assets. Because of these two reasons, people talk about sticking to fiscal deficit is very important, right friends? If you look at the aspects one by one, first and the most important aspect is agriculture and farmers' welfare. The allotments for agriculture and farmers' welfare increased, and total 35,984 crores was allotted for agriculture and farmers' welfare. Government states that it is around 128% higher than last year, but here rupees 15,000 crores for interest subvention scheme, previously which was under the head of Ministry of Finance, is now shifted to agriculture. That means 15,000 crores shifted from Ministry of Finance to agriculture for interest subvention. That's why if you take out that, the actual increase is around 30%, not as claimed by government at 128%. Then important aspects are Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana will be implemented in mission mode so as to bring 28.5 lakh hectares under irrigation. And here the budget allotment is not matching with the requirement for 28.5 lakh hectares, but anyhow government's intention is to bring 28.5 lakh hectares under irrigation. Second important aspect is by March 2017, soil health cards will be issued to all 14 crore farm holdings. If you look at India, there are around 24 crore families. In India, there are 24 crore families, and it is anticipated that out of these 24 crore families, 14 crore are farm holdings, and government wants to give soil health cards to all 14 crore farm holdings by March 2017. Then promoting organic farming through Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana. And please don't forget, recently Sikkim was declared as organic state, and government wants to promote this organic farming through Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana. Then rupees 5,500 crore for Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. All of you are well aware, recently government announced Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, and rupees 5,500 crore allotted to it, and rupees 850 crores for various dairying projects. If you look at the rural development, total allocation for rural sector around 87,000 crores of rupees, and out of which Mahatma Gandhi Narega will have 38,500 crores. This is not very high in comparison to the allotment of the past 5-6 years. And another important point is, lot of areas are due under Mahatma Gandhi Narega, and this 38,500 crore may not be sufficient if you look at the right of the rural people to have 100 days of manual labor in rural areas. And 100% village electrification by 1st May 2018, it will be a landmark development if it is achieved by 1st May 2018. And under Shyam Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission, what is Shyam Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission? This is creating urban amenities in rural clusters. 300 urban clusters will be developed under Shyam Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission. Then a new digital literacy mission scheme for rural India to cover 6 crore households during the next 3 years. Government stated that the details will be announced shortly. This is all about rural development. Most important is 100% village electrification by 1st May 2018. Then look at the next one, most important, LPG for below poverty line families at government cost. Initial cost will be borne by government, and here 2,000 crores is earmarked for this. And for the below poverty line families, government will meet the initial expenditure of providing LPG, and within a span of 3 years, government wants to cover 5 crore households. And 1.5 crore households will be covered during the year 2016-17, and overall it will cover 5 crore households in 3 years. Then another important aspect is legislative framework for direct benefit transfer or Aadhaar. Finally, this Aadhaar is getting legislative framework. So far, Aadhaar has got no legislative backing. It was created with some executive order, and that's why Supreme Court criticized Aadhaar implementation several times because it is encroaching into privacy. Now, direct benefit transfer will have legislative backing with the linkage of Aadhaar number, and government already introduced a bill in Parliament subsequent to the presentation of a budget. So, having Aadhaar to get government subsidy or benefits will become mandatory once the bill is passed in Parliament. Housing sector concessions, so as to promote affordable housing. All of you are well aware that there is already a government scheme which exists, that 6.5% interest subsidy is available up to a loan of rupees 6 lakh for economically weaker sections or low income group category. This already exists, and in addition to this, government has given certain concessions in the budget. First and the foremost is first time house owners or first house buyers will get deduction for additional interest of 50,000 rupees a year for loans up to 35 lakh. That means the additional interest concession while calculating income tax will be there for rupees 50,000 a year. This will be applicable for the loans up to rupees 35 lakhs, and the value of house should not exceed rupees 50 lakh. Then another important aspect is for the companies which are coming up with the affordable housing. that is 323 square feet houses in 4 metro cities and up to 646 square feet in other cities. The companies whichever are taking up these houses will have 100% deduction for profits. So, these are the measures announced in the budget so as to give fillip for affordable housing. If you look at infrastructure, 19,000 crores for Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana during 2016-17, and government's intention is to connect all 65,000 unconnected villages by 2019. And big push for infrastructure and total outlay for infrastructure is rupees 2,21,000 crores. If you look at airports, there are several airstrips in the country which are unutilized, and most of them are with the state governments, and as a first step, Government of India decided it will take up 10 airstrips during the year 2016-17. If you look at taxation proposals, no change in income tax exemption limit. That means those whoever are earning more than rupees 2,50,000 have to pay income tax. There is no exemption. Then tax rebate is increased for those people who are earning up to rupees 5 lakh from rupees 2,000 to rupees 5,000. So, additional tax exemption of rupees 3,000 is given for those earning up to rupees 5 lakh. Then surcharge for rich people is increased. For the persons whoever are earning above rupees 1 crore, the surcharge is increased from 12% to 15%. And parity for EPF, NPS in tax matters was brought. This created a lot of controversy. We are going to deliberate a little later. Then income disclosure scheme or IDS was brought to unearth domestic black money. Then direct tax dispute resolution scheme was also brought, and increase in tax relief for house rent for those staying in rental houses. So far the limit is 24,000 per annum. It is increased to 60,000 per annum. That means it is much sought after income tax benefit for the people whoever are staying in rental houses. And at the same time, all the investors getting dividend over 10 lakh rupees need to pay tax at 10% of its gross amount. And another important aspect is Krishi Kalyan cess at 0.5% of taxable services. Sometime back, Swachh Bharat cess was introduced at 0.5%. Now, Krishi Kalyan cess is introduced at 0.5%. Now, the service tax will become total 15%, please don't forget. Excise duty on aviation turbine fuel increased from 8% to 14%, and this is not applicable for the routes covered under regional connectivity scheme. That is for small airports, linkage to small airports, it is not applicable. So, air travel will become costly. And like that, the remaining taxation proposals I have given here. Here gold bond scheme and gold monetization scheme, some tax benefits are given. I have listed out here. Then jewellery, both gold and diamond will be charged at 1% excise duty. They will become costlier. Then infrastructure cess of 1% to 4% depending on the category of cars. Cars will become costlier, and at the same time for the cars of rupees 10 lakhs and above, 1% additional luxury tax will be introduced in addition to Krishi Kalyan cess. Then excise duty on branded garments at 2%, and solar lamps are exempted from excise duty, as well as no import duty on braille paper. And because of all these tax proposals, net reduction in direct tax proposals is rupees 1,000 crores, and indirect taxes will increase by 20,000 crores. And as common prudence tells us, increase in indirect taxes will affect common man, but government depending more on indirect taxes is not understandable. Right? I would like to tell you 3 issues specifically with regard to taxation. First one is NPS EPF controversy. I have given these 2 issues separately. One is Employees Provident Fund, the second one is National Pension System. And here Employees Provident Fund manages around 10 lakh crores of retirement savings from 8.5 crore members, and this National Pension System is regulated by Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority, and it manages around 1.1 lakh crore from around 1.15 crore accounts. And these two are different, and prior to the budget, EPF was enjoying EEE status and National Pension System was enjoying EET status. Employees Provident Fund was enjoying EEE status and National Pension System was enjoying EET status. You may ask a simple question, what is EEE? That means exempt, exempt, exempt. There are three stages of taxes. Because this Employees Provident Fund, the contributions will be there for around 20 years or 30 years. And what is exempt, exempt, exempt? When you are contributing to Employees Provident Fund, when you are contributing around 50,000 or 1 lakh, whatever it is exempt from tax. Similarly, during the period of 20 years, every year interest accumulation will be there. That is also exempt from tax. And after 20 years, when you are withdrawing, at the time of withdrawal, that is also exempt from tax. So, this is known as EEE or EEE status. But if you look at National Pension System, before budget, that has got EET status. That is exempt, exempt tax. Initial contributions are exempted. Accumulation of interest is also exempted, but when you are withdrawing it, it is taxable. That is for National Pension System. So, there is no parity between this Employees Provident Fund and National Pension System. So, as to correct this anomaly, the Finance Minister imposed tax on 60% of withdrawals in both the schemes. So, as to bring parity, Finance Minister imposed tax on 60% of withdrawals on Employees Provident Fund as well as National Pension System. And this created a lot of controversy, and finally the government may withdraw tax on Employees Provident Fund. And with regard to the National Pension System, we have to see what decision Finance Minister will take in future. For the time being, in the budget speech, the Finance Minister announced part of the withdrawals will be tax free and part will be taxable for both the Employees Provident Fund as well as National Pension System, so as to bring both of them at par. But this created a lot of controversy, and definitely there will be some changes when the discussion on these proposals is going on in Parliament. If you look at the other important aspect of taxation, that is income disclosure scheme. All of you are well aware about the disclosure scheme, or you can say compliance window for unearthing black money abroad. That window was there during the year 2015, and now the government announced this compliance window for domestic black money, so as to unearth the black money internally, and this is called income disclosure scheme. Under income disclosure scheme, people have to pay 45% based on the present property value. Of the present property value, they have to pay 45%, tax at 30%, surcharge at 7.5% and penalty at 7.5%. And this surcharge will be Krishi Kalyan surcharge, and by paying 45%, they can come clean and there will not be any action under either Income Tax Act or Wealth Tax Act, no prosecution. So, this is a window for unearthing domestic black money. And please don't forget, previously in the year 1997, the then Finance Minister P. Chidambaram launched this voluntary disclosure scheme, and at the time 9,000 crores was unearthed, right? So, this is about income disclosure scheme. And similarly, so as to solve disputes, because there are several tax disputes, especially with the big multinational giants like Vodafone, Cairn India, Shell, and so as to solve these problems, government announced direct tax dispute resolution scheme. And if the principal amount is paid by the companies, then interest and penalty will be waived off. This is basically to resolve outstanding issues between the government and the companies. Let us wait and see how the companies will come forward. So these three things are very important, that is with regard to national pension system as well as employees provident fund controversy. Second one is income disclosure scheme to unearth the domestic black money. Third one is direct tax dispute resolution scheme, so as to solve disputes between multinational companies and tax authorities. And finally, for this module, which will become costlier, air travel as excise duty on aviation turbine fuel is increased. Then gold and diamond jewelry will become costlier as excise duty of 1% is imposed. Then branded garments will become costlier because of imposition of excise duty of 2%. Then cars will become costlier because infrastructure cess of 1% to 4% is imposed, and on luxury cars of more than 10 lakh value, 1% luxury tax and 0.5% Krishi Kalyan cess will be there. So cars will become costly and luxury cars will become still more costly. Then eating out, going to movies, telephone bills, they will be costlier because the Krishi Kalyan cess of 0.5% is imposed. Mobile phones manufactured in India will become slightly costlier because of customs and excise duty exemptions are withdrawn on the accessories. Cigarettes will become costlier because of increase in excise duty, but remember, BDs are untouched. And if you look at the items which will become cheaper, solar lamps will become cheaper because of exemption from excise duty. Braille paper and other goods for disabled persons exempted from customs duty, so they will become cheaper, and routers, modems, set-top boxes and CCTV cameras will become cheaper. And with this, let us conclude part 1, and please do join for part 2. We are going to discuss the balance issues and what are the areas of concern. That means what are positive points, what are negative points in the budget. We are going to deliberate under part 2. Right friends, with this, let us conclude part 1. Please do join for Union Budget part 2. Have a nice day. Thank you.